Hello guys, Matt is here, and today we'll learn how to make our code more usable. We will do that by learning a new concept of functions, and before we can do that, you already know, let's comment, like, share, subscribe, and also not forgetting to hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever I release a new video. Let's go. So what are functions? In programming, a function is a block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single action. Even though that's the definition that we programmers tend to give, that is actually not what most of us do. Normally, we tend to go overboard and make our functions do more than one thing, and we shouldn't be doing that for best practices. So in this video, I will be teaching you best practices and how to define your functions so that you can reuse them for a single purpose. So let's see how we can do that. So to be able to use your function, you have to declare them. And in TypeScript, we use the keyword function followed by the name of your function. So let's just call the name of our function hello, and then followed by your parentheses and your code block. So by now we should be seeing some kind of a pattern when it comes to some of these not let me not say functions, some of these features in TypeScript, where most of the time we have a code block. So this inside our code block over here, this is called the body of your function. So this is the body of the function. This is the body of your function. So this is where you will write most of your code. So now, let's write our the first logic of our function. So now, since the name of the function is called hello, let's just print out hello onto the screen, or hello TypeScript. So print out hello to. So now let's try and run our program and see what happens. So tsc, I'm gonna functions, and then I'm gonna. So I ran the program, but nothing happened, even though we have some code in our file. So this is because in order to use your function, you need to call your function. So here you're just making your function, what it should do, but you're actually not using it anyway. For you to be able to use your function, you need to call it. So and you call your function by, that's the name of your function, and then you use your parentheses. And then now this is calling your function. So once you call your function, if we compile our code again and run it, now we should see hello TypeScript onto the screen. But that's a boring function that does not seem to be useful or exciting. So one thing that we can add on to our function are parameters. So let's say we want to say hello to the person using the function, or when we call the function, we want to have the name of the person we're saying hello to. So we can actually define a parameter on our function there. Let's say we define it and give it the name, and then the type of the parameter. So looking at that, we can already see that TypeScript is complaining. This is because now it realizes that we have a parameter on our function, but actually we're not passing in any arguments here. So we need to pass an argument for our parameter. So if you read the error message, it says expected 1 argument, but got 0. So an argument for name was not provided. So we need to provide a name for it. So when we said the type of name is a string, so we need to pass a string to it. If I pass 1 over there, it'll complain because 1 is not a string. Argument of type 1 is not assignable to parameter of type string. So what we in turn need to do, we need to give it a string. So who are we saying hello to? Let's say hello to TypeScript here, right? And then now we can actually remove this guy over here and add the second parameter there. So now we're saying hello and then to the name that we are passed into our function. So I'm just going to compile that, run it again. We still get hello TypeScript. Can actually run our function more than once. So hello TypeScript, I can say hello Java, and we can compile, and then we have two print values on our console. We have hello TypeScript and we have hello Java. So in that way, you can give your function parameters so that it can use them in different ways. So now let's create a new function. So let's say in our previous video we looked at getting the sum of numbers between 1 and 100, if I remember correctly. So now let's create a function that just adds two numbers, right? So we create a function. So let's just call that function add, and you're adding two numbers. So you can actually have more than one parameter on your function. So let's just call the first number x. Then this, we should give it the type. This is a number. And then now we can have another one, number y, and give it type number. And then in here we can I'm just gonna do this, console log x plus y. And now let's use our function down here. We can go 1 plus 2 and run it. So we get 3 onto the screen. This is not that much useful to us because we want to be able to reuse some functions in other functions perhaps. So let's say I'm just going to copy the code we had from our previous video, and then I'm going to paste it over here. So I'm just going to paste this code up there. Let me just scroll down. So in our previous video we had this this little block of code over here, which we were adding numbers from 1 to 100 and then printing it out onto the screen. Now let's say we want to add numbers between any two numbers. You have your upper bound and your lower bound, so where you start and where you end, and you want to add numbers in that range, and then you want to use that sum somewhere else. So to be able to use the result of one function in another function, we have we use something else. So instead of just logging it to the screen, we can actually return the value. Return the value. This means that you can actually get this back. So if I hover on add, you have add, the name of your function, your parameters over there, and this thing here which says number. This means that you can actually run your number. In this case, let me just I'm going to do this const and say sum. Oh, sorry, it's because it's already up there. Sum2. I'm gonna call it sum2, right? So we added two numbers over here. Now this will actually have the value of, will have the result of this function. So now let's just console.log sum2. So sum2 will actually have a value. Yes, compile. So sum2 now has the value 3. But if we were to not have this guy and just console log it, I'll just Just copy it quickly. Just copy that guy, paste it over there. If you just console log, I'm just gonna specify that this is actually inside function, and then this is going to be, I'm just gonna call this sum2. Compile it, run it quickly. No, I just compiled again. Run it. So we have inside is 3 and sum2 is undefined. So now this is because we are not returning anything. So the function just does that. So it doesn't send back the value that it computed outside of the function. So to be able to do that, you need to have your return there. So now you'll actually have the values on the inside and the outside. So I'm going to compile now, and then I'm gonna. So you have inside it's 3, and sum2 is also 3. So this will be actually reusable. So you can use this function somewhere else. Now let's deal with our problem from the previous one. So we just gonna call the function. So I'm just gonna comment this out so that we don't get Typescript complaining. So, but we are going to use this code and this function to get the same result as before. So I'll actually remove this hello function over here. It's not useful anymore to us. So I'm going to call this, I'll just call it sum, and then you can call start. So this will be our starting point. So we also need a number for that. And then also we need what's this? Our ending point. So we'll call end number, and then we'll have our body. So we have our body there, and now, so instead of saying here, we said let j equals to 1 because we wanted to add numbers between 1 and 100. So now instead of saying j equals to 1, we'll say j equals to start, because that's where we want j to start at the starting point, and we want our sum is still 0. So now I'll just call this sum range so that it doesn't get confused. So sum range, and our sum here will be 0, so the range between start and end. So that's why I'm calling it sum range. So now we have our sum being 0, and then we can just copy that code again. I'm just gonna remove what we have there. I'm just gonna remove the comment. Yeah, so we have this code, but we also want to return the sum of the range onto a screen. And the sum of our range will be the sum value over here after the while loop is done. So now I'm just going to say return sum, so that we actually get it back. But now we want to add numbers between start and end. So last time we were adding between 1 and 100. That's why we had 100 here. So now we can actually copy this guy and make it end there. So, and then one thing that we can actually do again is use our, I'm just going to remove this as well, use the function that we had outside over there. So we have add, so we can actually go add, and then we call it on this one. We're adding sum and j. So we just reused our function there. So you have a function that adds numbers, so you don't, so we just we didn't do the sum plus j because we already have a function that does that for us. So we can actually here use that function. So adding this will add sum and j together, and then we'll get our result. So I'm just going to, so let's see what we get when we add different ranges together. So I'm just going to console.log. So if we get, I'm just between 1 and 100, like last time. Last time we added the numbers between 1 and 100, and we got 50-50, right? So I'm just going to go 1 and 100. This should also be 50-50. So I'm just going to compile and run. So the sum here, so I'm just, let me say sum between 1 and 100 will be equals to that. So now let's say we want to add numbers between 1 and 10. So now instead of writing another function which will do the same thing for different arguments, we just call the arguments. So we want to add between 1 and 10. So I'm going to compile it again and run it. So now we have 55. So you can actually reuse this function as many times as you can in different places. We already reused our add function in here. So yeah, I hope you have fun using functions, and we will learn about some methods on different types that you have in the next video, and then we will move on to more programming and problem solving in the upcoming videos after that. So let's get it.